Hi guys, Mr. David here. So there are a lot of really interesting jobs out in the world. Take mine for example. I get to read silly books with silly voices, do arts and crafts, and teach fun activities to kids. I love my job, and I can't believe it took me so long to find it. But in finding this job, I had a lot of other jobs working in kitchens at fast food restaurants, selling newspapers, selling insurance, working customer service, and even working as an actor. Now, along the way, I learned a lot, but I also met a lot of interesting people with interesting jobs. You know what? I want to share them with you. I want you to meet my friends and find out about their interesting jobs and what they did to get those jobs and what you can start studying if you want to do that in the future. Does that sound good? So over the next few weeks, join us as we get to talk to my friends and find out about their really interesting jobs. I hope you enjoy. The first job that I ever knew that I really wanted to do was be a film director, was to work behind the scenes on movies or TV. I love movies and I love TV. And it was through that love that I found acting because I wanted to know what an actor goes through to be a better director. When I was younger, I actually got a job running cameras for the local public television station. Yeah, I actually filmed pledge breaks and little news shows. I was behind this big camera and learned all the focus and zooming and stuff like that. But I was not a great cameraman, but I had a lot of fun doing it. Years later, I met in college tonight's guest, and he actually has gone on to be a director of photography and a cameraman for reality TV shows. Does that sound like fun? Well, I hope you guys will welcome tonight's guest, David Plummer. Hey guys, I'm here with my good friend David Plummer. So David, first off, in your own words, what is your job?
Director of photography for reality TV. Um, so reality TV covers everything that's just not scripted. So not your typical sitcoms, but it'll even include sports sometimes. I've shot a lot of sports shows. And so as the director of photography, my job is to make everything that you see look good. Everything that you guys see when you watch a TV show is orchestrated by the director of photography. He's the one who's making sure everything is lit well, everything is framed and in focus, and is just making sure that the overall image of the show looks very good.
Okay, how long have you been doing this?
Oop, you broke up. I didn't hear that
Oh, I'm
question.
sorry. How long have you been working in photography for film and television?
Um, for I've pretty much been doing it ever since I was a little kid. I got my parents' little small VHS tape and started making every video I possibly could with action figures and my buddies. And we'd be in the backyard and we'd pretend we were Indiana Jones or whatever and having the best of times. But professionally, I've been doing it probably going on close to like 15 years now.
Okay.
So, but I just recently became a director of photography. I was camera operator and then before that camera assistant. So I've only been director of photography for about a year now.
Okay. Now, what all did you have to study to be not just a director of photography, but also a camera operator?
So I went to film school at the University of Central Arkansas and took a bunch of film courses there and learned a lot. But I would say more important than learning how to film things to start off is just learning how to tell good stories.
Sure.
So anything that enjoys storytelling, whether it be theater or film or even literature, English, history, all of those things. Learning those helps you be able to tell stories better. And yes, as a director of photography, you're in charge of making a picture, but you also got to orchestrate that the story is being told through what you're showing people.
Well, so going along with that, what are some things you look for when setting up a story through pictures? Like, what do you kind of do?
Okay. So for example, um, right now I'm working on a show called Diesel Brothers. It's on Discovery Channel. And a lot of times the guys will give away trucks. That's part of our show. These guys build these huge trucks and we give them away to people. And there are very important moments in that when you're giving away a truck to somebody. One is you want to make sure that you have a great shot of the truck that they just won, because you want to be able to be like, whoa, this is the truck. This gets everybody excited. But at the same time, it's not just about the truck, it's about the person who won. So you want to have a very nice image and a close up of the person who got the truck, because their reaction is everything. So you want to make sure that you see that, but also you have to make sure that you see the big picture, which is all the guys giving away the truck, the person winning the truck, and the person and the truck itself. So you kind of have to be able to work the team together to make sure all of those things are covered. So that way, once it goes back to the editors, they can tell the story better.
Okay.
But without knowing that that's what the editor would want, you would miss some of those things.
Okay, that's interesting. So it's kind of like showing the cause and effect, what causes the emotion, and you have to get both sides. Okay.
Correct. Yes.
All right. So what's your favorite thing about being a director of photography and cameraman?
My favorite part about being a cameraman, or just being in the industry, a TV industry in general, is no 2 days are the same. It's really exciting doing something just completely different every day. I spent a season going around with Notre Dame football, and I was on the sidelines of every football game that Notre Dame played. Just 2 days ago, we were filming. The guys just bought a tank, and so I'm chasing a tank around in an off-road vehicle, following a tank that's being built, and then we're having to jump out of the cars and jump into the tank, and it makes a lot of great stories that most people that work in an office and all of those things never really get to experience. And for me, it's an everyday thing, from flying helicopters to like I said, chasing tanks, to we just finished a desert off-road race where we're in the middle of all these sand dunes, and things are leaping 20 feet, vehicles are jumping 20 feet in the air. And I also fly the drone for the show. So I'm flying this remote controlled camera in the air going 70 miles an hour just through the desert. It's just really exciting. It's really fun. It's different. And you really get to experience things that you wouldn't in a lot of other jobs.
So what you're saying is it's a very boring job.
Oh, it's extremely boring. No, there's
Yeah.
you do have moments, because with every show there are things like interviews and people just sitting down and talking like we are, where you don't get to do as many exciting things with it, but that's also part of your job. But you get to mix in the really fun things as well.
Well, you mean you don't get to do on the testimonials, mood lighting, Dutch angles, and just sweeping into them as they're talking about, well, we changed the valve on this.
There is actually a little bit more setup that goes into the interviews, and especially we have for this show, we have a room that is specifically for interviews that is perfectly lit and beautiful. And my co-DP on the show, Carlos, and I work together really hard to make that look as really good as it does. And that's the setup for that is fun, and getting to see that image and see how good it looks is really exciting. But then when it actually comes time to like sit them down and talk, it's really just sitting in a chair and looking through the camera and making sure everything stays looking good.
Sure.
But it's still fun. It's still rewarding.
All right, so we talked about your favorite thing.
Mhm.
What would be the toughest thing about your job? Now, this doesn't mean the thing you like the least, just the toughest thing about your job.
I would say the hardest part of the job, especially on this show, would probably be it's reality TV, so you don't get another shot. Everything has to be exactly right and in the moment. So if something happens and it's 40 feet away and you got to get over there, you're running with a 40-pound camera on your shoulders and chasing it down. And if they're riding a car through the woods, you're hanging on to a vehicle and holding the camera. Like I said, you're jumping up inside tanks. You're like, we've literally ran and slid under parked cars, not moving cars, but we slid under cars to film them underneath, like a part breaks in a race and they're having to get under there quickly and fix it. I've had a couple close calls and filming different races and things where cars have literally flipped less than 5 feet in front of me.
Wow.
And so it's very physically demanding and it can be very stressful to make sure that you're getting everything you need to get all at one time, because very rarely do you get a second chance, as opposed to like filmmaking, where you see, they go through, they set up a shot, and if anything's wrong, even if everything's right, they'll still do another take just in case. They'll say it's for safety and they'll shoot another one. You don't necessarily get that luxury in unscripted television.
Now, has there ever been a moment in working unscripted television where something happened and you just missed it, whether it was off to the side or you guys were filming something else and you just are kicking yourself that you didn't have a camera on it?
We've definitely experienced a few of those moments. If you have a good cast of your show, they're very spontaneous and fun, and we oftentimes there'll be 12 people in a scene all doing their things, and there's only 3 cameramen. So to cover everybody doing everything is difficult, and we'll have moments where someone will just say the funniest thing you've ever heard in your life, and we'll look around and none of the 3 cameras are on it, and you're just like, no. Or someone will they'll all be working on a car and someone will accidentally cut a line and fluid sprays everywhere, and if you're not shooting it, then you're just like, oh no, you can't shoot that again. And yeah, so moments like those happen, and unfortunately that's part of it. Sometimes you can kind of have them tell the story again, as to like what happened, and we can kind of save that moment. But the very first time is always the best time, and if you don't get that, then that's always unfortunate. But hopefully you get a bunch of other good moments that make up for it.
Sure. Now, if someone was interested in pursuing a job in camera work or director of photography or any other backstage, behind the scenes crew members of a show like yours, what should they start studying? Like, what different things should they study?
Important parts of the camera department is knowing, first and foremost is lighting, how to light things, how to frame things properly in the frame. Those are always the quintessential parts of being a director of photography is making sure that everything is lit well and looks good and is in focus. But as far as learning how to do the job, some of the best things you can do is get on sets as a production assistant. It's a production assistant is like the entry level position on a TV show or a movie. And sometimes you're getting coffee, and sometimes you're making copies for people, but other times you're right there. You're not controlling the camera, but you can see the person that's doing the camera work and kind of learn from watching. You can see the guy that's hanging all the lighting, and you get to observe and learn that way. I know, like, as well, just being in Arkansas growing up, there's not a lot of film and TV happening there a lot.
Sure.
And so what I used to love to do is any chance I got to watch behind the scenes footage of a movie or a TV show that I liked, I would watch it, and I would pause it, and I would see what everybody's doing and try to see how I can replicate that in what I'm doing. And a lot of learning that way. And, you can find those on YouTube or on, DVDs. If anybody's still got Blu-rays and DVDs, the behind the scenes features on those are always really helpful. And there's tons of tutorials online, books. You can probably find tons of books on cinematography, on even just learning terms when you're on set, because that's one of the first things you'll do. It's almost like they're speaking another language when you show up on set, because they're asking for C-47s. And if you don't know what that is, you're just like, oh no, what do I grab? And then you realize C-47 is a clothespin. And so it's literally just a wooden clothespin that you would use to
see, I did that.
Laundry,
Like I
I knew
what you were talking about. I had no clue.
Yep. So if you get on set and they ask for a C-47, you go find a clothespin, and instead of an extension, like, everybody has like an extension cord, you call that a stinger. And there's just, it's every light has its own name. Every every little piece and moving part of it, every job has its own term. So I know a lot of good cinematography books out there that I read would literally have an entire section just to learning what things are called.
Oh, wow. So let's go back, because you mentioned work, just finding things to work on, and in this day and age of YouTube and digital cameras being so much cheaper than they were. I mean, even back when we were in school, it's a lot more independent,
right?
A lot more smaller filmmaking. When you were growing up and getting interested in filmmaking, what filmmakers did you look up to that you said, hey, I want to do what they're doing?
So I've always just been a big fan of Steven Spielberg's work. I know when you get deep into cinematography, there's a lot of people that were more skilled in different things in different ways. But one thing that I've always enjoyed from Spielberg and his works is just that they're just really good stories that have really good characters that everybody remembers and enjoys. And luckily he's had a lot of box office success from it, but also anybody knows what you're talking about when you hear the Jaws theme. A shark's coming, and just some of the most iconic movies of our time he's had a part of. And I've always said that, like, if I were to make a movie, I would rather it be like one of the most loved or most enjoyed movies of all time, as opposed to being like the most skilled movie of all time. Now, Spielberg is extremely well skilled and very good at what he does, but I think the thing I admire the most about him is he makes movies that people just fall in love with and enjoy.
But also going along with what you said about just learning from a young age and getting on sets, that's actually how he learned while he was still in high school. Snuck onto film studio lots and just would hang around and made a fake office just so he could learn how television was made. And so, I mean, that goes right along with what you were saying. So.
Yeah. And then from a cinematography standpoint, Emmanuel Lubezki and Roger Deakins, I
Mhm.
think, are two of the best to ever do it. And if you want to learn what good cinematic lighting looks like, in my opinion, you could take any frame from any movie they were the director of photography on and just pause it and take a moment to realize where he put the lighting, where, how
Sure.
everything's composed, how it's framed. And if you just look at any still frame, it's actually more difficult when you're watching like a movie or a TV show and everything's moving and things are happening real quickly. It's harder to appreciate the work that really went into the
Sure.
lighting because your brain's absorbing all the other things that are happening. But if you just take a moment and you just pause a movie, it all starts to make a little more sense to you as far as, okay, so he has the main light, which is called the key light, is, over here. And then, like, oh, there's obviously a light going across the background. That's a nice touch. And I like that he framed in the person in the background looking over, because that tells the story that that person is trying to figure out, there's, there's a lot that can be told in every single frame of a movie. And that's,
Yeah.
I really enjoy just obsessing over
I remember, I can't
those
remember who I
sometimes
heard
and
it from,
just
but
enjoy
someone
watching
once
them
told
over
me,
and over
oh,
again.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
Uh, I can't remember. I think it might have been our professor, Dr. Blakey, once told me that if a movie is done well enough, you should be able to have it on mute and still be able to follow most of the story.
Yep. Yeah. That's I've heard that before. And it's funny because it's one of those things where it makes total sense.
Now, we've talked a little bit about cinematography and film and telling a story through pictures. Are there
Hmm.
different techniques in film and television, scripted versus unscripted?
Yes. So as far as from a visual standpoint, a lot of times with film, because you have multiple takes and a lot of setup goes up into every angle. Um, a lot of times they'll shoot those with one primary camera, and that's you'll shoot out something with one person talking, and you'll get them to rehearse and they'll talk, and you get the best out of them that you possibly can. And then once you're happy with that angle, then you change angles, and then you get the next one, and then you shoot that over and over and over again. Um, in order to tell those same stories while shooting reality television, you have to have multiple cameras. And so a lot of times we will run 3 cameras with 3 cameramen on them, as well as we use a bunch of little action cameras. We use GoPro cameras a lot. And so there will be scenes where we have 15 cameras going at the same time. So that way we can be everywhere we need to be at once. And it's very important to, so if you're telling the story of them fixing this car or putting new wheels and tires on the car, you want to have like a camera angle inside the wheel well of the car so you can see when they go through and start tightening the wrenches. And we won't be able to see that with our cameras, because usually if you've ever seen someone change a tire, their back's to you the whole time and you don't get to see what they're doing because they're all inside these little spots. So in order to tell the story as best you can, you need to be able to think ahead as to what everything these guys are going to be doing. And then place cameras accordingly. And then once the scene starts, it's probably really funny to watch, because it's 3 of us cameramen all moving around following all these guys, but we can't show each other because you don't want to see the camera guys. So we're doing this weird dance with the 3 of us moving around each other and moving back and forth, and having to kind of like you luckily I've worked with these guys for a really long time, and we kind of know each other, know where we're going to be without having to talk, because you don't want to talk to each other because
Sure.
then you hear us discussing what we're doing. So you kind of you're we're moving around back and forth and chasing all around the vehicles, and it's I've always wondered what it looks like from the outside perspective. It's got to look pretty funny to see us avoid bumping in and dancing around car parts and things on the ground. And when I was shooting the football show, you were actually dodging like football players because we were at practice, and you've got all these great athletes running around you at full speed and pads. And I did not get hit myself, but I definitely saw quite a few cameramen get accidentally tackled by several football players. And that is typically something that doesn't happen much when you're shooting movies. You don't run into that issue nearly as much.
Or at least you hope not.
Yeah, at least you hope not. If that happened, then something's probably gone wrong.
Now, you mentioned using GoPros a lot on your show. Technology-wise, camera-wise, the big main cameras that you use, are they different kinds of cameras than what they do in like sitcoms and movies, scripted television and movies?
It's very situational because there are some cameras in movies and TV that are very similar to ours, depending on the style of the movie. But for the most part, the big difference is our cameras are built to be as portable as possible because we're doing all of that running around and moving and sliding under things. And I mean, yeah, they're 35, 40 pounds, so they're not, lightweight handy cameras, but I've seen cinema rigs, for movies get upwards of 50 something pounds, and they're on tripods that weigh 20 pounds. And, they're not portable. They're locked in, and you get to have all the cool gadgets and bells and whistles and everything that you would want on a cinema camera. Whereas on our cameras, it's focused on being as compact, as lightweight, and as portable as possible, while still being able to do everything you need it to do. Our cameras that we use actually aren't that new or advanced compared to what you can get out there. What's important to us is the lens. A lot of people focus so much on the cameras and what your camera can do and can't do, and can it do slow-mo, and can it, is it in 4K or 8K resolution? And really what comes down to for us a lot of times is our lenses. Our lenses cost more each than a typical new car does. And it's because we need to be able to go really wide on some shots, and we want to be able to go really tight and close up on some things. And unlike in a movie, we don't have time to change the lens. A lot of times in a movie, when you want to get a close-up of something, you'll take the time, they'll change the lens to a further zoom lens and shoot that shot with new lighting and everything. Whereas we have to go from wide of seeing, a truck and a helicopter flying overhead. And then all of a sudden we have to punch into a close-up shot of the guy driving the car, and we have to do that in a matter of seconds. And so it's very important to us to have lenses that are capable of doing that. And, because of that, unfortunately, they do get heavier and more expensive to get the lenses that can do that.
Sure.
But that to me is probably more important than the camera itself.
Okay. Well, I was just thinking about that before we sat down. It's like, I wonder if there is a big technological difference between the two, but it makes sense that the more of the scripted reality, fake reality shows like The Office and Parks and Rec use pretty much the exact same thing to get that exact same look. And lenses.
Yep.
Yeah. That's so. Of all the projects you've gotten to work on, what has been your favorite project to work on?
My favorite thing to work on, I will have to say, I've been on probably 20 different reality or sports shows, and the football show, I've brought it up a few times, is a close second. because it was a lot of fun. I love college football. So like we got to go to the practices, we got to go to the games. We traveled to every city they traveled to, and that was a lot of fun, but it's really hard to beat this show that I'm on right now. It's Diesel Brothers on Discovery Channel, and these guys build the craziest trucks and do the wildest stunts, and they work with some pretty big name celebrities, and that's been fun. I've gotten to meet Shaquille O'Neal,
Wow.
Chuck Norris. We've worked with Marshawn Lynch, Jacob DeGrom, and like we go and we film. We actually, the guys have trucks that are at Monster Jam. So I've been to like on the track of Monster Jam with giant monster trucks, doing backflips, and it's hard to. I find it. I'll be surprised if another show gives me the same experiences that this show does. It's really exciting. The main cast, the guys that are the main guys on the show are an absolute pleasure to work with. They are, sometimes you think of like, when you think of like celebrities, reality TV shows, people, you hear that they're not the same as they are, on screen as they are off screen. But these guys, we've kind of become like family over time, because I've been on the show the last 4 years, and we're on season 7 right now. And so I'm at their shop 12 hours a day, 5 days a week. So I see them more than I see my own family, other than my brother. My little brother, actually, I just got hired on the show. So that's been another big exciting thing about this show, and has made the experience even better, is now I have like my little brother actually is working with me in the camera department on the same show. And I've never been able to have that happen before.
Yeah,
So
your actual family blending in
too.
with your work family. So that's really special.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So that's an experience that not a lot of people in this industry get. So I'm very thankful for that.
Absolutely. Well, David, thank you so much for joining us today. I had a wonderful time. I learned a whole lot. And once again, just hopefully this wasn't too painful for you.
No, not at all. Not at all. It was good talking with you again, buddy. I haven't seen you in so long.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
So thank you once again, and you have a good day.
All right. Appreciate it, David. Have a good one.
Bye. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed my conversation with David Plummer. I had a lot of fun learning about reality shows and how they're put together. Well, make sure you join us next week where we talk to a professional children's musician. Does that sound like fun? All right, guys. Thanks once again to David Plummer, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.